Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to BASF at K 2025. Welcome aboard our plastics journey. You all came here for the plastics. You should stay for some perspectives, because this is what we are offering today with quite a panel and a very, very pointed question. Is the green transformation a killer or a booster? Maybe we'll find a more differentiated answer to that one with the panel I have today. So I'm happy to introduce to you Catharina, professor at ETH and not at ETH Zürich, as our AI announcement just said, professor for circular economy and net zero. Zillig, vice president at Mercedes-Benz Group Research. Happy to have you here. Riesenhuber, global head of sustainability at Siemens. And Enrique Fernández Salvador, member of the board of directors for technical acquisition and customer liaison at Grupo Antolin. Last but not least, Jung, president of performance materials and our captain on the plastics journey. So, is the green transformation a killer or a booster? Is a big question, so it needs a big icebreaker. Martin, you have been moving here all day. Where do we stand?
Now, obviously in circles, right, Richard? So we named our journey our plastics journey, and we did this for two reasons. Number one, it is a materials journey, and you see it here, make, use, recycle. And we're talking, I believe, on all of these topics today. But it's also a journey, because a journey needs people that join this journey. It needs pioneers, and therefore I'm extremely thankful that Enrique, Eva, Ulf, and Catharina joined us today. All have been pioneers on our journey and joining us since a couple of years in our journey here. Now coming back, what is it all about? You will see here, this booth is organized exactly around this journey, make, use, recycle. And I have to say, honestly, I'm very, very proud of the recycle section, which you find at the rear of this one, because it contains a lot of new stuff that you have not seen 3 years ago. So we are pretty proud on what happened here. I would say on the make phase, it is all about energy. The energy that is in polymers, that is in the molecules, the reduction of the so-called product carbon footprint that we try to bring, either through processes, the green energy, but also through new raw materials like bio raw materials. The use phase, I would say, is well known. That's what we've been doing many, many years. And then on the recycling phase, what you will see is that we offer a lot of different pathways to recycling. It is not only the mechanical recycling that you know, or perhaps the total decomposition in thermal composition, in pyrolysis or gasification. It's everything in between, like chemical recycling, solution recycling, depolymerization, all kind of stuff that you will find. And this is not fantasy anymore, it is real. We tried it, we can pilot it, we can bring it to scale. And the reason that we're having so many different avenues on this plastic journey is because we have also so many different stakeholders and customers that demand different solutions. And this is, I think, where we have our discussions about.
Absolutely.
So it's about our plastics journey, the partners, the circularity.
Let's start with one partner, Eva. Can you sum up Siemens' sustainability strategy in, let's say, 1.5 minutes?
To understand the strategy, you have to understand what we do. We are at the backbone of economies. Our products are in buildings, in train systems, in manufacturing, in electrification. The infrastructure we're contributing to today will be around in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So our products, our software, our services need to take this into account, because the world will look very different in 10, 20 years. We will have cracked circularity because we have to find the way to no waste. We will have to find a way to deal with climate change. So that brings me back to what is our strategy. In sustainability, we look at 3 key impact areas because you can't choose the challenge you want to address. So the first key impact areas is decarbonization and energy efficiency. Then we have resource efficiency and circularity, and people centricity and society. Mm-hmm. It is all based on a foundation of ethics and governance, and we have set ourselves 14 targets in these areas. Some are for our customers, like we will help our customers avoid 1,000 megatons of CO2 by 2030. That's a gigaton. That's 1.5 times the emissions of Germany, and that is through our products and solutions. But we also are walking the hard way ourselves. We will reduce our carbon footprint by 90% by 2030. We are electrifying our fleet, we are electrifying the production, we're changing all our buildings to net zero because we're sitting there with our customers doing this transformation the hard way with our portfolio. And for circularity, what we're talking about today, 100% of our products, solutions, software and services will be robust eco-designed by 2030. And we also will have zero waste to landfill, which, by the way, will be the floor, because if you're going to go circular in the entire economy and you pull the products back into the factories for refurbishing, remanufacturing, you do want to have a way to get it over to recyclers at the same time, what is not up for refurbishing and remanufacturing. So we are thinking in that whole circle. That's our strategy.
Okay. Ulf, I've just seen you nodding a lot of times when Eva explained Siemens sustainability strategy. There's obviously a lot you can relate to.
Yes, that's true. We are, our strategy calls Ambition 2039, which aims to be net carbon neutral in a new vehicle fleet across the entire value chain at 2039. That's 10 years earlier. We commit to the Paris Agreement as a one OEM, or the only OEM, to be honest, and we have to work very tough on that, but we are committed to decarbonize our value streams. And we start with cut down all the CO2 emissions, starting with the supply chain. That's why we are very interested to come in dialogue with the suppliers, because that's a big lever in our field of Ambition 2039. Go through the production, then go to the use phases, tank to wheel and well to tank, and also to, as Eva pointed out, also in the circularity topic, end of life of the vehicles. And so we are also rely to green electric, or to green electricity in the production, and we promote CO2 reduced materials. That's very important because steel and aluminum are the biggest material next to thermoplastics. What we have as a lever for our CO2 reduction potential. And so we discussed that in Ambition 2039, and I think what's very important, Eva pointed also to this out, is that we have a fundamental there in our business strategy, because sustainability is only working with business together. So we said, okay, we rely to the business strategy, and so all the decisions which are made in Mercedes are made on a sustainable background, and business background. That's very important for us.
Before we bring in you, Catharina, I also like to hear from you, of course, Enrique. Grupo Antolin, you're somewhere in between that. What's your take on sustainability and strategy?
Well, we also follow our corporate roadmap to become neutral. We are running on green electricity in many countries already in Europe. But I would like to address this question from a more day-to-day business, or more operational perspective. What we are doing at Antolin is to introduce, let's say, low-hanging fruit first. The solutions that are already available, sustainable solutions, we can introduce in the headliners or in the plastic parts to obtain weight reduction, carbon footprint reduction, sustainability increase, while still working on the mid and long-term solutions, because the future will demand different solutions for each application. For the short term, we are running already in serial production several projects with sustainable solutions that are reducing the carbon footprint and are getting a lot of traction in the market. So that's basically the summary from a different perspective.
Yeah. Catharina, we've heard quite some ambitious targets here in the panel so far. Nobody mentioned the circumstances, let's call it the elephant in the room, also regulatory framework that makes it harder or easier to achieve. What's your take on that?
Well, I guess both is true and makes it harder. I guess we could hear a few voices on this. But I guess the regulatory backbone is also why we are here. So in the research we do, we seldomly, and I hope all of these are exceptions, but we seldomly see a lot of innovation happening without this elephant in the room, how you call it. So let's start here in Europe, which is a regulatory powerhouse, so to speak, be it for the better or worse, I guess for the better. And we have overarching goals, like all of them have been mentioned, so decarbonization, no waste, and so forth and so on, but also economic resilience. And then there are many, as you know, regulations that would carve this out. But coming back to your questions, I think without this regulation, which says, okay, which are the goals? And there I would strongly advocate for ambitious and reliable goals. It's hard to align, or as Martin said, to embark on this journey if you don't know where we are heading. So in that respect, I think regulation is very important to create this level playing field.
And it also makes it much more difficult for companies to invest if you don't have that.
If that wouldn't be the case, yes, I think that's true on both sides. So you can take a few European regulations which have in different articles like the sentence saying, okay, we will revise this regulation in a couple of years. Well, if I would be a company, I would step back and say, okay, then maybe I wait a couple of years to become this regulation effective. So I think this is why as soon as there is a regulation, everyone knows, okay, this is where we are heading. So in terms of how strict, how specific should this regulation be, I think the clearer it is, the better it is in terms of scaling and investment. And actually, that's what's happening. When you look into Europe and how, for example, Chinese plastic companies are investing in Europe, obviously they see a lot of potential in this ecosystem.
Okay. You mentioned stepping back. How's that from your perspective? Who's stepping back here? You're stepping to the front, Eva.
I don't think anyone is stepping back here. I think I'm actually here with partners that we're working with. And that is super important because we all realize we have to change, and that is where regulation comes in. So we come from take, make, waste more than 100 years. We come from fossil fuel more than 100 years. These systems need to change, and they need to change quickly. That means we all need to invest. And that means there's a big gap between invest and return on invest. And that is what governments have to bridge, because we are doing it for society, but it has to be, right now, it's not capital market allocation, organic growth. This is government-mandated demolition and reconstruction. And we're all in this boat. We all want to do it, and we're all stepping in.
Martin?
Yeah, I would say definitely. I think this economy needs a framework, and this framework needs to be also steered by governments. And we see it clearly. If you look at European regulations, you see that this packaging waste regulation now starts to set a certain stimulus in packaging markets. If I look at our markets, and we are very much geared towards automotive industry, say the long time of development for the European end-of-life vehicle regulation sets a little bit the ambition back and brings a lot of uncertainty into the markets, into our partners, into our tiers. Because nobody knows what is the return on investment, which kind of technologies will be acknowledged. And a very important, slightly technical thing, of course, is this mass balance allocation. How can you allocate in a certain chemical recycling, how can you allocate recycled raw materials to end products that in the end are able to pay for this kind of new technologies. So there's still a couple of uncertainties that need to be urgently set in order to have a regulatory and economic framework for these technologies to be scaled.
Ulf, Martin mentioned end-of-life vehicle regulation directive. What's your take on that?
Yes, I can only add this point that for us it's very important to have a stable process for investments, and I think that's very important also for all the suppliers, that we know what we can do. So that's why we go for technical open discussions. And in the moment, we have a discussion that you mentioned maybe tomorrow, the Autogipfel. We will have there a discussion, what happens if we have a possibility to stimulate the market a little bit more, to give the customers more confidence in what happens there, because the transformation costs a lot of money for everybody in the value chain. And on the other side, we have to be clear that when you compare it to China, they stimulate the market. We have all the time the regulation as a law, and we discuss in my field, in automotive at Mercedes, a lot with my legal colleagues. Is it possible to say that like that or that or that? Is a greenwashing topic, or can we go out there? Now we have a new MCO legislation for what, if you can say it is net carbon neutral or not. That's all the time a legal discussion, but it's not a sustainable discussion. And that's for me, as an engineer, for a lot of people responsible, a little bit not frustrated, but sometimes not intuitive enough for the people, because you have to go with the heart for the topics. And if you have all the time a legal in your bag and you have to discuss with him, is this possible or not, that's not sometimes not a driver in the system. Yeah.
See it the same way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we consider that the regulator can serve a lot to improve or to boost the sustainability. But regulator has to be as a beacon to foster innovation, to foster new sustainable solutions, to also have a dialogue for the end of life parts, how to apply solutions to that. Yeah.
So, Catharina, this is a very clear, let's say, assessment of what regulators should do or not. Do you agree?
Unfortunately, I'm not a regulator, as you saw from
Unfortunately,
my title.
of course.
We all agree.
I would have a few ideas. So sorry, what was your question?
If you agree to the assessment that was given on what regulation should do, should not do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, especially when you look into Europe and how regulations are brought up, then there is always, before a regulation comes in place, there is a lot of discussion with industry saying, okay, what can you do? What are you willing to do? And how far can we get? And I think if this, again, what has been called a journey beforehand, if there is an orchestration among the value chain beforehand, then I think that's very important and can help the regulator to set a target. Having said this, I mean, what we are witnessing currently, you talked about the end-of-life vehicle regulation. I mean, there has been a lot of back and forth, 25%, 20%, the timing. Well, I'm not asking the questions here, but I would be very interested.
You can, feel free.
I would be very interested in
how
much this back and forth in terms of, is it 26, is it 2030, is it 25%, is it post-consumer, is it post-industrial? I mean, if I would be you, that would make me nervous. So I think in that regard, as I said earlier, the stricter, the clearer, the better, but obviously there are different interests.
Yeah, I would say a discussion about 2050 or 60, that's not a discussion that makes me super nervous. You know, it's the practical things. If you're talking about very practical things, for instance, recycled content, post-consumer, post-industrial, wow, that makes a hell of a difference in terms of economy and what kind of raw materials you can access, this kind of stuff. But I would also say, I would probably put it in two pieces. The climate part of it, which is, say, CO2 preservation in all our manufacturing processes. And that, I would say, irrespective of any regulation, is pursued and done as far as we can. And there's a lot of things that we still can do also by technology, by better processes, by process efficiencies and design. So a lot can be done on the CO2 side and PCF side. Whereas I truly believe the circularity side, that is really an expensive, new, transformative economy that needs to be built, and that needs a lot of more support. But we should also not be lazy and waiting for regulation until it comes someday. What is also important, which we have not discussed, we're talking very often about Europe a lot. There are other important regions in this world, especially if you talk about our markets. China takes more than half of the chemical markets. So you have to see that regulation also is on a playing level field. It's not only in one region, and then in other regions we have totally different economies. So this is also important for us to keep in mind, especially as the chemical industry and plastics industry is a very global industry.
Yeah, same is true for your industries.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but we have the advantage of being global. So I agree, China is leading in clean tech, and there are a lot of incentives there. Now, we have been in China for more than 100 years, so we can take advantage. And when we pilot circularity, we do it there, but then we take it to other regions. We bring it back to Europe, or we bring it to the US. And by the way, I just came from the US, and it's like, companies are very much aware that they have to transform. Let's not assume that they stopped. There's a lot happening there in innovation. They're obviously leading in AI. I would say Europe is leading in efficiency, resource efficiency. It's like we can really be the home of circularity if we manage to crack that demand creation point in regulation. We had a lot of stick, and I think it's time to do the carrots, because in 2020-21 we had a Green Deal. The Green Deal was not just here's the regulation and you have to do it. It was meant to be balanced, and now that we've done all the hard work with preparing, having the data, now the demand needs to be created, needs to be incentivized to have secondary material, it needs to be incentivized to, for example, do biomass-based plastic. It's like there are things that are happening. They were triggered, but now we have to close this loop, also in regulation.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you would like to add?
I would bring one point also to the discussion. Circularity is also for us a resilient topic, because when you see the trades, when you see the protectionism and all the topics there around the world, as a global player, we are also a global player. We see circularity as also in the future as a business model that we call it a virtual mine. You know, not go to the urban mine. We want to have a virtual mine, because then we have all the recycled materials in our hands, and can put it back in our value chain. And that's a driver for us in the strategy of ambition and in Ambition 2039. But we are not there. We have to close the loop in our company, and also with the suppliers. And that needs also information, needs money, needs innovation. And I think, we have to go for that.
I'd like to move a little bit from, we've talked about the why you are doing this, of course, about the vision and strategy, to the what is actually the frame conditions, to the how. Yeah, Martin, you mentioned it in the beginning, K is only happening every 3 years. Last time at K, some areas were more empty than this time, so a lot of progress has happened. Give us some examples, and also in the cooperations with Mercedes and with Siemens.
Yeah, as I said, what I'm particularly excited about is that we talked, and we know it for long, mechanical recycling, we all know. Then we talked also 3 years ago, we had a lot of hope on chemical recycling. That means in the end, decomposition of your polymers back to the monomers or even smaller molecules, which is in the end also very, very energy demanding, we know. So you have to very carefully calculate the life cycle of that one. So what we did in the last 3 years, what you will find a lot, is the middle part of it, then having middle-sized loops, I would perhaps call them, where you go back to perhaps monomers or parts of the polymer, or for instance, what we show here for polyurethane, which I find extremely great, is kind of a dissolution of your polyurethane foam in a polyol, which then gives a new polyurethane foam. Something which was quite inventive compared to what we did last 3 years. Very practical, very usable, low energy, and can be directly also, and is used today by one of our big furniture customers. We also have examples with all of you, but perhaps you can talk about your examples better than myself.
Thank you. Well, yes, one of the sustainable parts you will be able to see here behind us is a headliner, which is an interior part. We have been collaborating, by the way, thanks to BASF and the customers, Volkswagen and Volvo and Borstina. All the supply chain were collaborating, and it's always a pleasure to work with companies which are spearheading in sustainability. And what we are doing in this example is we are combining different solutions from mechanical to chemical recycling to increase the sustainability by 40%, even higher, reducing the carbon footprint and reducing the weight. Those are the targets the customers are pursuing. And this is a very good example that there are already things we can do. But there is a cost gap. No one mentioned about the cost, but there is a price gap with the solutions compared to virgin. But we take not only the cost, but the performance very seriously. Any sustainable solution that we introduce has to give exactly the same performance. No customer will give up on performance of the final product. So this is one of our mottos: increase sustainability, but keep performance. And the cost gap is there because the solution is probably more expensive, but the more we collaborate together to introduce new solutions, new sustainable solutions, the faster the gap will be reduced. So that's also important. And we cannot forget that sustainability rhymes with affordability. So if it's not affordable today, it will be in the future. And as you said before, we cannot just wait and see lazy waiting for something else, but let's introduce whatever is sustainable. There are solutions, sustainable solutions that we can see around us that are affordable, that are sustainable, and are really ready to implement as a drop-in solutions.
Yeah. Eva, together with Siemens, BASF also released quite a couple of world's first sustainable solutions in the past few months, actually.
Yes. And I mean, I want to build on what you actually said. So the customer is at the center. And our promise to the customer is to make a more competitive, more resilient, and sustainable. And when you look at a product, that means it can't simply become more expensive. So we dematerialize, you're making it smaller. We're adding functionality. And then, of course, we're looking at the material. And this is where our partners come in. And here, just around the corner, we have our serious circuit breaker. Like, circuit breaker, are everywhere. It's like in motors and manufacturing control systems. So we have circuit breakers everywhere. And this one, and here as well, you need to realize, in our industry, plastic has a function. We can't just replace plastic with plastic. So if we want to go low carbon material, we need a partner who understands what they're doing. And in Sirius, we used biomass balanced plastic, which means it was made as feedstock with biomethane from agriculture instead of fossil feedstock. And that reduces the carbon footprint of the Sirius circuit breaker significantly, and it saves up to 270 tons of CO2 a year. So that is a real impact, but it also is certifiable, it's secure, it is the functionality of the device is exactly where it needs to be, and these are the kinds of partners that we need.
Exactly. And this is just as true for what you are doing together with BASF and with partners in the
we do plenty of projects with BASF. It's a good partner for us and very innovative partner. And I will point out one topic we have made, because it was also a transformation process internally at Mercedes to learn how to close the loop with chemicycling processes. So we take all the old tires and brought them back to BASF, and they made in a chemicycling process door handles for us. That's very important for us, and to make it very plain and very easy to tell. For us, it was a tremendous change because the customer has something in the hand which is recycled.
In the hand.
In the hand. Yeah. And all our engineers are saying, "Wow, recycled materials. The customer, is the quality right? Is there something not maybe not in our under control?" Mm-hmm. And so we said, no, we will do that, and it was an icebreaker, only to make that as a point, icebreaker for the organization, to close the loop. And now a lot of other light towers are on the way with BASF.
I would really love to come back to that topic, because when we had a quick chat before we went on stage, you mentioned that it's also a lot of educational and transformational work that you have to do internally.
Yeah, I think that's, everybody has, if you have a recycle or secondary material underneath, okay, yeah, you have to find the specification, you have to fulfill the requirements, durability, and that no odor or smelling is in your area. So, but if you have it, at the customer on a high quality topic, for example, because we are built desirable cars, we're luxury in a luxury range. The customer is very specific, and he wants to have, a color matching must be perfect, 100%. And if you don't have this or not meet these requirements, the engineer would not give you a lease for that. So, and that's And to go this way is a transformation way also internally, and also for all the suppliers to make all quality checks to be really secure that we have everything there that we can fulfill the demands of our customers. Yeah.
I would say probably one topic which is really important, which is also at the centerpiece of K this year, is then transparency, and with that, of course, digitalization in the value chain. Catharina, I'd like to hear you first. As a professor for circular economy, how important is digitalization, are digital tools or a digital approach in order to make this whole thing happen and actually work?
You will not surprise if I say very important.
I am not surprised.
Because as was just mentioned, I mean, it's about if you want a recycled content product, you need to like at least change a little the entire value chain. But so how do you know where the tires are from? How do you know where you want to source them from? What quality they are, how old they are, what they've seen in their life, and so forth and so on. So I think AI and transparency and data will be the most crucial, probably, game changer in making this connection from linear to circular possible.
Yeah. Martin, how far is BASF when it comes to digitalization in the value chain, CO2 footprint transparency, these things?
Yeah, first of all, I would say it's extremely important. Why? Because you will see with all these avenues to circularity and product carbon footprint, your products have totally new specifications. In the past, you were talking about a viscosity, a Sharpie or whatever. In the future, you talk about your product carbon footprint, your recycled content, the origin of recycled content, the bio content, perhaps the origin of the bio content. So all of a sudden, the specification of your product explodes. And that kind of data we need to make accessible to our customers. They need to make it accessible to their customers and through the entire value chain up to the end customer. And a scrapyard needs to be able to read back these materials back to its origin. So we saw that digitalization is extremely important. Therefore, we engaged, like many of you, also in this initiative, which is called Catharina X. It was also supported by the German government Ministry of Economy. And I think we made some progress also in the last couple of years. Many of these apps start to be commercial. We also start to transfer with a certain app, a so-called Pacific app you can see here around the corner. We start to transfer product carbon footprints, and we want to transfer even more features in the future with all our value chain.
If you don't only have to make the whole car digital, but also the value chain.
Yes, especially the supply chain. Because we have a lot of legislations there, and we have to secure and have a trustful data we get, and we have to show the customer at the end. And we rely on all these data, as Martin pointed out, to make decisions, to go in this direction or that direction, cost-wise, or because sustainable is a new currency in the system, and we have to decide what way we can go. That's very important that you have all the data on your desk. And so that's very important. But I think to the point that I think digitalization is also a driver to make speed in the process, because we have so much, to bring the data from here to there, to there, to there. We are too slow. And if we have, we talked in the first minutes in this discussion round about what the customer demand is, or the public desire, we have to have speed. You need the speed to come up with sustainable solutions, scalable solutions, and digitalization helps us.
And how can we get faster? Ideas to the front, Eva.
How can we do what?
Get faster.
Get faster. Well, digitalization is definitely the key. Digitalization is the beginning.
Yeah.
In circularity, we often think about it just as trusted traceability, but it's so much more. When we really think about circularity, it means the products are around a lot longer. They need to be updatable, they need to be upgradable, they need to be smart. We need to be able to connect them into a future that is fully connected, generate the data, then we run the AI on top. It's like, if you think about where we started in societal infrastructure, the buildings of the future will be autonomous. They will look at the transportation data of the people who are coming in. They will look at the weather data, where the sun is shining on what side of the building. They will automatically regulate the ventilation. They will either run it through hot areas of the building or to the basement to cool down the air, because of course we're going to be zero carbon. So what I'm trying to say is circularity is a lot more than what we're focusing here at plastics, where we're looking at the material in a product. Circularity is also to do a lot more with less and work with the material we have on the ground and make it smarter. So, for example, with data and AI, we can put 30% more load on the same grid. We can have trains running 99% of the time, reducing the number of trains that are needed. We can reduce robot cribbers that have been around for donkey's years from 50 kilograms to 2, because we have smarter ways of designing them. And we are only at the beginning of what is really possible. And all of that feeds into circularity.
Yes.
I would love to come back to our initial question. And I had the hope that we would find a more differentiated answer than yes or no, or killer or booster. But the initial question was actually, is the green transformation a killer or a booster for your businesses? We have a couple of minutes left, so I'd like to hear a quick killer or booster and why from you. Killer, booster?
Thank you very much for that question, Richard. First of all, I would say green transformation is a must. It's neither a killer or booster, it's a must. And what we try to do as the chemical industry, plastics industry, we try to be an enabler or a booster in order to enable everything that's happening in our value chain. So for us, green transformation, a must, and be the enabler and the boost.
Enrique.
It will be a booster, I do agree. Well, it's not sustainability is not an option. It's a competitive advantage that will boost sustainability, of course, but also differentiation, customer value, and customer trust. So in my opinion, it's a growth engine.
It comes together.
Booster.
Booster.
The mega trends are very clear.
Yeah.
The innovation I see it unleashes within Siemens is truly amazing. And for the first time in history, we do have the data and the AI to really rethink systems. We can rethink energy transition. We can rethink circularity. We can rethink the way we want to live on this planet. And for the first time in history, we are at this point.
So I would say also a booster. We have the, how you can say it, in a right way together on this way. I think that's very important. Not each for it alone. So, but it's a booster, and I think we have a lot of innovations on the road, and we need a market pull, and then we are through. I think that's a clear topic, and I think all what Eva and Martin and you are saying, we can say the same. That's a clear target for us. A go. Yeah.
Catharina, last one belongs to you.
Yeah, what should I say? I'd say it's both. I hope, hopefully it's a killer to the old fossil-based economy, but it's surely a boost to everyone and every state that embarks on a green transformation.
So we have a clear vote for booster and enabler. I thank you very much for participating in this panel. Thank you for being here. That was our plastics dialogue on the question of, is green transformation a killer or a booster? Easily a booster. Thank you all very much. See you later.
Thank you.
BASF. We create chemistry.